You know, one of the most lingering phrases I've heard about Silent Hill and the fan base for the last 20, 25 years has always been Silent Hill fans are never happy. But when you go and look at the comments, you'll generally see things along the lines of, this is not Silent Hill, this is not the image of Silent Hill we were going for, this is not what we wanted, this is not how Silent Hill is. And it only proves to me that interpretation is one of the main components for the fan base itself. The interpretation of how you perceive Silent Hill and how you perceive the storyline, how you perceive the game mechanics and things of that sort, those seem to be what makes up what makes Silent Hill. And the question burning in the back of my head was, what is it that you see in Silent Hill that has you nodding and saying, yeah, this is it, this is the one? If you are a nostalgic person at heart like myself, you'll look at 1 through 4 and you'll simply say, yeah, you know what? That's Silent Hill. If anyone has any questions, I refer to you to Silent Hill 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and that's it. Nothing more, nothing less. That way, every subsequent trailer that comes out later, you can point at that trailer and say, nope, that's not it, that's not it, that's not it. But then there are others. There are others that would say the mechanics, the tank controls, the items, the endings, the characters, the main central plot line itself. Everyone has a different reason on why the newest is not necessarily a Silent Hill game. Using Silent Hill F, for example, the most simplistic statement so far has been, it's not in Silent Hill, therefore it is not a Silent Hill game. Then some would argue that the spirit of Silent Hill is in the game, even if it doesn't take place at Silent Hill. Some say it's because it's not in America anymore. Some say it's because you can dodge roll now. There are 1,000 reasons why people look at a game, and not even just Silent Hill, but they look at a game and they say, this is not from the franchise that I remember. Devs have a hard time because then they have to design something new, something you haven't seen before, based on an old premise that you have seen before, making sure to, almost like a chemist, add the perfect ingredients to have a lot of the older fans kind of nod and go, okay, this is it. This is the one. But what are those components? What symbolizes everything you knew about the franchise, even if you're making a brand new story? When Silent Hill Ascension came out, they adversely changed everything about what Silent Hill was, to the point in which it became a giant plague that ravaged through the world, and you got to see different points in different continents that found themselves to be trapped in the throes of an otherworld and demonic entities and monsters alike. You got to see that, and most saw it and said, this wasn't Silent Hill. But did they say that because the overall story itself veered off, because it strayed away, or did they say that because you're now watching it in a live stream format and it's no longer a playable game? Is it that simple? I believe a lot of nostalgia and a lot of classic throwbacks and things like that are a hindrance to a plot line. If you make a new part of a series, then I worry that if you hang on to a lot of old notions, you're just going to want to see callbacks. It's going to look like a Marvel movie where you're just going to see 1,000 different references to old movies, and you're going to say, this movie is awesome because it calls back to everything I saw before. It's a massive hindrance to a new plot line because no matter how much new things you put in, you have your audience waiting for that thing that they recognized from the time previous. Not helpful, doesn't add anything to the plot line itself, and most importantly, it doesn't feel new. But what happens when you go on the opposite side of the spectrum and you go completely new? Everything about it is different. Well, then that upsets old school fans as well. That upsets fans that just jumped into the series, no more than a few years ago. There is no winning a crowd, and there's no winning a fan base if you have nothing to chain it to. But there has to be a limit. There has to be an overall limit, because in the end, you're just looking at the same item from before. If you make a car and then a new model comes out the next year, and it looks exactly the same except the wheels are a little bigger, that's not going to be enough for people to feel like they're playing something new and different. And then on top of that, you have a fan base that there are a certain few who simply want everything to be the exact same way they remember. So how do you make a new game? How do you make a new entry into Silent Hill with that in the back of your head? Well, the short answer is you don't. The short answer is there's no way to win this battle. You have to risk it for the biscuit. You got to get in there, you got to throw something new down and put it on the table and hope to God this new version or this new look is enough for people to acknowledge that this is going to be okay. And then from there, you just move forward. The largest hindrance to any plotline, any story, any franchise will always be the older generation, the older fans. Even people who were supposed to have been aged out, they will hold the storyline back. But you can't disregard them. And I think a lot of devs do that. Silent Hill F doesn't necessarily do that. However, they came in the beginning of this whole creational process when they announced the game is going to exist, and they said flat out this has no connection to previous Silent Hills. And this made fans angry, but I do commend them on being honest and upfront right from the start. They said, hey, look, nothing to do with the old Silent Hills. Okay? That being said, we're going to make one. I hope you love it. Here we go. We got some good writers. We got some pieces and parts that you recognize, say, for instance, using Akira to compose the soundtrack. But ultimately, don't come in expecting to see the same thing you saw 25 years ago. There's a good and a bad to that. The good is that means you're going to see something original. The bad to that is you're not going to see something you remember, the whole reason you're going after the next entry into a franchise. Silent Hill Ascension did not. Silent Hill Ascension made sure that they kept everything close to the vest, and then they just released the idea in the hopes that their premise of a live stream series was going to be enough for them. They said, hey, if we make it a live stream series, it will surprise and shock all the fans. They'll see it, they'll rejoice, and everything will be just fine. They're going to love it. When in fact, they did not. You have a few fans here and there, and I have seen them in comment sections and things like that, that legitimately do like Ascension. And to them I say, awesome, I'm glad you enjoyed. I had my things to say about it. I'm long since over it, so I don't need to rehash it, but you had your fans, but for the most part, it was rejected. Short Message came out, and when Short Message came out, they said, hey, it's free, this should be enough. Because it's free, don't worry about it. Even if you're an old school fan or whatever the case may be, just download the game and play, and if you don't like it, you know what? No love lost. It had a high download count. Many people played it. Why? Because it was free. That gimmick seemed to have pushed it up in the ranks a bit, which was nice. But in the end, it wasn't the greatest, but it was free, so what are you going to do? The Silent Hill 2 remake came out, and they said, hey, this is Silent Hill 2, everyone's favorite Silent Hill. You're going to play it, and you're going to remember a few things, and there's even callbacks to the old puzzles in the game itself, but we added a lot of new stuff too. It seemed to be the perfect mix, and the biggest gimmick holding them onto the fan base was the fact that it is a remake of the best Silent Hill in their opinion. The best Silent Hill in a lot of people's opinion. And rightly so. So, what do we do now? Do we make another Silent Hill? Do we have and sprinkle just enough nostalgia in it so to keep the fans at bay so that we can make our new storyline? Do we completely turn tail, run backwards in reverse, and carbon copy every single thing from the Silent Hill universe into a new game? I think the answer's pretty evident. I think as the years go on, and it's been 25 years, like I said, since the first Silent Hill, damn near 25 years anyway, I think without the key thing holding a lot of old fans in, you're simply targeting new fans. If you are targeting new fans, then nostalgia is not the way to go ever again. Just make a new storyline and move the hell on. Those that knew Silent Hill from the past will absolutely just turn away from this project and register it as a non-factor and just kind of stay old school with the stuff they enjoy. They'll go and play their PlayStation 2 if they really want to play what they remember. But in a business standpoint, that's losing money. That's losing the one guaranteed crowd that you need on your side. I think Silent Hill F marketed just enough to show that they had the idea of Silent Hill, but I think not enough nostalgia was added to it. And this was done on purpose. They did not want to add enough nostalgia because they are now targeting a new demographic. Those that have played the original Silent Hill when it first came out are 35 to 40 years old now. They have no dog in the race anymore, so to speak. While they don't want to alienate those fans, they most certainly do not want to target those fans as the main and key demographic they're looking for to get sales in a game, especially if they're out working or, raising children and things like that. So you have to get the new crowd. So they start over. And Silent Hill F releases. You'll get a brand new Silent Hill story that goes back to Japan. They restart. This game could very well be a hard reboot to the entire franchise, despite the fact that you're playing old remakes, because Konami will not turn down $1, which means that's why you're getting Silent Hill 1 as a remake now, made by Bloober Team, because Bloober seems to know how to capture the Silent Hill we all knew and love. Fine. However, they're not going to turn down $1, so the Silent Hill 1 remake will still happen. And I think Konami is almost double dipping at this point. Since they outsourced every bit of their development in the Silent Hill franchise and relegated it to various projects, there's no sense in them having to worry about wasting money, because all they have to do is let a number of different teams use a random assortment of money amounts and increments to go and make a new Silent Hill. And there is a part of me that personally feels like that is a good way to go about it. You have various people from different walks of life and age groups, most importantly age groups, wanting a different version of Silent Hill. Well, now you have your choice of all of them. And then you have good old-fashioned fans like myself that will buy every single variant of Silent Hill. But Silent Hill F is the hard reboot that the series will be getting, whether it needs it or not. It doesn't need to continue, and you don't need to see a sequel to Silent Hill The Room. You don't need to see a overall sequel to anything. What you need is a feeling of dread and fear and things like that when it comes to horror, and you need it from a Silent Hill game. Well, the best way to do that is to go and remake a new one. I'm sorry, not remake, but the goal is to make a new one and see how it does. Now, they have good faith in this Ryukishi guy, which, by the way, I still have yet to read anything that he's produced. And like I said in a few videos before, for good reason, I had no intention of looking into that. I just want to see what he provides for the Silent Hill series, and I don't need that tarnished by whatever preconceived notion I have based on a previous project. However, the nostalgic fans and the people that say, this is not what Silent Hill is made for, and this is not how you do Silent Hill, this is not the imagery I remember, all of those things, saying that is falling on deaf ears for a good reason. There's no reason that Silent Hill F needs to capture the source material that you know and love anymore. There's absolutely no reason to. And it pains me to say that because I'm such a diehard fan myself. I would love if they did, but there's no legitimate reason they need to. There's a series out there, a franchise out there that captures what everyone knows and loves and remembers and makes sure to stay true to the material no matter how ancient and old it is, and that is the Evil Dead series. Not the Evil Dead horror movie, but I mean Ash and Chainsaw Arm and all that good stuff. That universe has stayed the same relatively over the last, 20 or 30 years, and Bruce Campbell has made sure to see to it that he plays that same character. Why? Because it is now a cult classic and has a following that continues to have a following of these old traditional fans. However, you're not going to get the 16-year-old kid who just heard about these things. You're not going to get him signed on because this is too old school for him. This is just not something that's targeted to him. How do you get Silent Hill to target a new generation? You have to remake it. I don't want it to be remade because I am the old school fan mentioned earlier in this video. I am the old school guy who wants to see the old stuff that I remember. However, I don't think I can be selfish about this anymore. I don't think I can say, this is for me, you should make this for me. Because every time I do that, I think it overall destroys how expansive this franchise can be, especially if I want this to contend with Metal Gear Solid or Castlevania. Castlevania survived the test of time, and they're advancing, evolving, and they're turning into something bigger and greater. They could definitely use a new game, that's for damn sure, but Konami just refuses to do that. However, they have their own anime on Netflix. And they added to the lore, and they moved stuff around and things like that. And when they did, it took off. The new generation ate it up, and they loved it. Why wouldn't we want that for our series? Why wouldn't we want that for Silent Hill franchise? Do we want it to die because it's nothing like what we remember, or do we want it to grow and turn into something that generations can talk about? Can I talk to my son about this, 5 years from now, and we can compare based on what we remember? Doctor Who had an old version of the TV show, and then they have a new version of the TV show. There are fan bases that are huge or were huge that only grew because everyone modernized or turned into something better or just kind of expanded. I think nostalgia is good, and nostalgia is good for a few reasons, but number one, it's marketing. And that's its purpose for a lot of everything that comes out, especially since we're in an age of remakes. So the nostalgic guy going, I remember this game, this was the greatest thing I ever played ever, can tell a crowd this, and the crowd can listen and receive that information, and then go decide if they want to buy it based on what they see in trailers and what this nostalgic dude is talking about, singing its praises. However, when we spend all of our time saying, hey, this is completely different, this is awful, this is nothing like it's supposed to be, everything I loved about it is now dead, when you do that, it kills the franchise. Now, there are some of you out there who go, I've heard say, it just needs to die, let the franchise die. I disagree personally. I don't think the franchise should die. I do not think it should be changed in such a way that it's unrecognizable. There should be a fine middle ground between the two. And in that middle ground, you should be able to connect with the newer generations and the older ones. There are some people that believe if it can't look like how I remember it, then there's no reason it needs to be around. And I don't understand that logic. And for those that do think that way, I legitimately would like to hear from you in the comments. I'd like to know why you would just prefer for a franchise to die. Now, there are times when a series or movie or whatever the case may be has fallen so far from the plot line itself that it's a mockery. Say, for instance, the movie Baywatch or 21 Jump Street. There was a following on the TV show, and when they made the movie, it became a joke. Quite literally, it became a joke. I'd hate to see for any franchise go that route, where it almost becomes a self-aware, tongue-in-cheek laugh at what it used to be. I don't want to see Silent Hill become a action RPG. I don't want to see Silent Hill become a first-person shooter. I have no interest in that, and I think that directly mocks the source material. However, when someone comes along with a new storyline and says, hey, this is going to take place in Japan or Chicago or wherever, I'm open to the idea. I'll take a look. I want to see what you got, and then I can decide from that point, hey, is this for me, or is maybe this isn't for me? Maybe this is for the new generation, or whatever the case. When Ascension came out, I got on board only for one reason and one reason only. It was a new and inventive idea. Hey, an interactive Silent Hill movie, okay. It's not really a game, but you know what? Still, I'll give it a shot. I made it through an episode and a half before I said this was hot garbage. I said maybe this is for the new generation. This is what they like. They like interactive movies, playing like The Walking Dead and things like that. I was like, you know what? Okay. Let's see what they got. I gave it a chance and hated it. And then I proceeded to rip into it. I spent a good bit of time ripping into it. But I also checked out the comments. Listen to what people have to say. And there are sparse comments explaining that they can't wait for the newest episode, or they couldn't wait to be in the chat room, because they were all Silent Hill fans in the same chat room watching a video about Silent Hill. Now, that being said, if that's enough for you to go, yeah, this needs to be just shit canned, throw it away, I don't want any parts of it, thank you and good night. If that's enough for you, then I understand. I understand what it's like to see something you loved a lot turn into a whole different monster. I understand that. But we also had a slew of other different Silent Hill titles coming out and I was ready for each and every one of them to see where they go. But the idea that it has to be the way I remember it, that idea is slowly falling away from my mind, because the longer I hang on to that, the more I'm prepared to hate. The longer I'm prepared to, or the quicker I'm prepared to simply discard the idea altogether. Then it becomes pointless. Then I become a pain to listen to, because I'm in the comment section explaining to everybody else that they too should hate this game. I don't, in an effort to stay positive, especially as of lately, just for me personally, in an effort to stay positive about everything I've been playing, doing, seeing, and everything like that, I try to objectively look at things, and if it's not for me or if it doesn't work out, I'll give my comments on it, and then I just let it be. I don't go on a tirade, and I don't tell people that their opinions are invalid, and half of the lore that I talk about now in Silent Hill even comes from the Silent Hills that everyone hated. Just unanimously across the board, they hated. And I do that because despite the fact that you may not like it, it's still a part of the ecosystem. You know, despite the fact that you don't like green beans, they're still vegetables. You can't take them from the list of vegetables. That's not how it works. And I think a lot of people fail to do that. You already have interpretation being a driving factor in a lot of the Silent Hill franchise itself. Interpretation is exactly what people are using, and I've had people in my comments just give me their own interpretations for the last 6 or 7 videos, and they've been amazing, and they've been based on 1,000 things. But you know what I haven't seen anymore? People declaring things as definitive fact. This is what it's supposed to be. Whatever you have to say about blank and blank is incorrect, therefore it's invalid. They're not doing that. Why? Because as intended from the start, when I, spent my 9th and 10th grade theorizing about Silent Hill and message boards, it's just based on how you feel, your interpretation of things. You'll get from time to time a developer that says, I made this for this reason. And outside of that, everything has been interpretation. So the new generation and how they interpret these Silent Hills could very well be the only way they interpret the Silent Hills. And the previous ones that we played could be archaic garbage to them. It could be something that just adds up to nothing. But we don't know that. And we can't force people to believe that either. We can't force people to go, hey, look, if you're a real Silent Hill fan, this is what you need to know. This is how it works. Now, this video isn't a way to broker peace or anything between all continents or nations or whatever the hell. It's more of a realization that if Silent Hill F, for instance, or Townfall, turns out to be absolute garbage, you have to remember that for some Silent Hill fans, this might be everything to them. This might be the most amazing thing they've ever seen. And you're all still Silent Hill fans. Everyone is still making sure they're fans of the series and franchise. So, for every time you decide to jump in some sort of comment board and correct someone or explain that you know more about something or any of these things, the more times you do that, you're the reason why the fan base or the franchise will fail. You're the reason why it will plummet, because you're now deterring people from enjoying anything about the fan base. If you have a bucket of items and you show up to a party and everybody can reach into the bucket of items and they're having a good time reaching into this bucket and pulling out what they like, and you're the only guy going, no, this is stupid. This is stupid. You're bringing the party down. You're actively a downer. We have a serious problem of a lot of people just being negative and then just shitting on everything left and right. Everything just kind of hits the bottom. In the coming days, we're going to get more Silent Hills into the franchise, and if the first thing out of your mouth is it's stupid because you can do a quick time roll and dodge some hits and things like that, then that makes you the problem. That makes you the problem. No one is going and condemning your love of Silent Hill 2 or 3. No one's going in and saying you should not like this and here's why. Despite the fact that you've played the game since the beginning and you know everything about the game, no one's contesting your knowledge of the game. However, you're contesting everybody else's. And then on top of that, you're making sure they don't like something new that comes out for it. Spider-Man himself has about 977,000 variants, and a lot of them have their own comic book runs. So if someone picks up a Miles Morales comic and says, hey, I love this comic, Your job is not to go, The Amazing Spider-Man is better, you shouldn't like that garbage, it's nothing like Spider... Like what good does it do you? You can always have an opinion about how a game is, whether it's good or bad. You can be a diehard fan of Assassin's Creed and hate Black Flag. You can absolutely do that. But ultimately, where is it going to get you? How you interpret this game, or games before this, how you interpret Silent Hill is monumental to how Silent Hill is portrayed in your brain. And you're going to perceive it, and you're going to interpret it its own different way, and you're going to explain it to people. And their job is not to tell you that you are wrong for interpreting it this way. Interpretation is also a form of an opinion, because you have formed an opinion or an interpretation around this idea. And unless you actively say, my interpretation is that James is actually Harry and Harry is James, unless you say something outlandishly wrong like that, it's not our job to make sure that we, shit on your interpretation. So if this new director comes along and he says, my interpretation is that Silent Hill F is something new and you're going to love it, and then he puts it out there, you can then objectively look at it and go, this was bad or this was good. But you cannot go to the next person and say, hey, look, I don't care that you interpret it as this. Here's what I think, and here's why I'm right. It's just not helpful, and it turns into a situation where we earn a name for ourselves as a fan base. Now, me personally, I have no goal to lord the information I know above anyone else. I have no goal to say, hey, I'm the best Silent Hill fan. I'm a better Silent Hill fan than you. I've been playing longer than you. It does nothing. It serves no purpose. And in taking that mentality, I've had a community in the last 6 or 7 videos show themselves where they're just talking. They're just theorizing and throwing out their interpretations, and other people are listening and they're giving compliments about it. Like, it's amazing. Whereas I go into Reddits and Facebook groups and they're actively cutting each other's heads off for just saying one or two silly things. There's a reason for that. We are a fan base like any other fan base, but we have to remember that after about 5 years, our usefulness to the demographic is now done, and they have to move to the next person. They have to move to the younger crowd. So are you going to be an issue when that happens? Are you going to actively fight it? Because it's been 25 years. So those that come into Silent Hill brand new, I can't in good conscience anymore try to stop them. And the only way you can really stop them, being as old a fan as I am, is to literally just gatekeep and explain that this series is no longer for you to enjoy. This is something that's built for me. That's not how that works. I don't know, rant over. I'm just excited for Silent Hill F right now. I want to see what they really have, what they're putting on display for us. But in the meantime, I think I went through one or two too many Facebook groups and things like that, and it started to just agitate me a bit, and I thought I'd share my mind on that. No one's saying you can't enjoy something, but good lord, can you not be the reason someone else doesn't enjoy something? Just saying. Anyway, shout out to everybody on Patreon. Silent Hill F is a-coming, and I will be there with fucking bells on. Much love to you guys, and I'll see y'all later.